Which one of you was the fortunate one to play the Gershwin Room? Because I found it somewhere on the website that one of you played in the Gershwin Room.
Yeah, I did.
was
This
hot.
was
Wow.
weirdly enough. Also, I think it was the first ever proper gig I played, and I had no idea how like cool that venue actually was. So this was in high school. I would have been like 16 or 17.
Wow,
So,
but that's setting the bar really high, because this is an amazing venue. Yeah.
yeah, it was funny because the next gig we played was like, I don't want to name the venue because I don't even know if it exists anymore, but it was like a stage that was maybe 10 centimeters off the ground. It was just, it was pretty ghetto. Like the waiting room or the band room was like underneath the stage, and there was just tables and chairs everywhere and like rats running around, and yeah, it's pretty gross.
Oh boy.
But
And I guess that's also, sorry for interrupting, the beauty of Melbourne. You've got so many opportunities to play in different places, like, the number of venues that you guys have there. And, like everybody's really keen on seeing bands play, like even though they're not famous or like just starting up, and all different genres. So that's what I loved about it as well. So it's really cool that you've got to do it.
Yeah. Every man and his dog could start a band down here, and it's great. I mean, like there's probably an element of oversaturation sometimes, but at the same point, there's so many options, and I think we kind of take that for granted. Yeah, even that's funny too, because I feel like we've somewhat exemplified that in that, like Cal and Mitch were just musicians in their own right, and then I just happened to know them as friends because of bands as well. So, and they seem pretty keen to take it on board. Like it is just a bit of an opportunity. Just if you have a friend of a friend who happens to play guitar, you just ask them, and they just turn up and you give it a crack. Like I don't think people are too precious about it, just to give it a go. And if it sucks, you just move on. Like,
I think it's a cool feature as well. Of like, I've played on a lot of different shows, not just necessarily with Peak Park, but I think as well here there's a good emphasis on creating a solid lineup for a gig, and it can be, like you say, like sort of going beyond genres. Like I've seen a lot of well curated gigs happen where they started with sort of a really talented acoustic solo artist and move up into someone who's kind of a little producer, and then it sort of moves into like a full scale band, and on the surface they might not look like they all interact together, but it can be a really nice progression. And it does feel kind of inclusive here. We are pretty lucky.
So you guys must be missing gigging life as well, or like going to gigs, because this is probably the worst part for me. And it doesn't look like I'm a big fan of festivals and stuff, and it doesn't look like we're going to have them back for some time. So there are obviously ways of, people have been trying to find ways of substituting it, but I don't think it's the same. So what's your, like, how do you see like all this live streaming, and, do you think it's the same kind of experience, or have you done it maybe as a band as well?
We did it once in that Mitch did a solo thing. And again, at that point, like we couldn't really gather and be in the same room at the same time. And fortunately enough, we could just rely on Mitch to pull it off. And I think we did. But I agree. Not being able to go to gigs or festivals or any of that stuff. There's a whole heap of shows that have been postponed. Like Bon Iver, for instance, I've wanted to see him for a billion years now. He finally was coming to Australia in June, and that's just been postponed to next year. So like it's disappointing, but as Cal mentioned, it's all for the greater good. And live streaming, although it's better than nothing, I don't think it equates to being in a room and hearing the speakers hit you and that energy and the lights as well. And that's even something I realized too, the older I got, how much of a live gig isn't just the sound of it, it's the lights, it's like the atmosphere, it's
the experience.
Yeah, it's a full sensory experience.
Yeah.